on all of my interviews or podcasts, I never speak about the actual experience of being sexual because like it's not. I know what people want to hear, and it's not that. And, like,
one thing about this podcast, we keep it real. We don't sugarcoat nothing. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Mental Roots, the Mental Roots podcast specifically. For those who are new, again, Mental Roots is a media movement that I, Nathan Ade, have created just for us as young black people, and especially black men, for us to open up and be real about the various different things that impact our mental health. So it's talking about mental health, but not in the typical clinical cold way that we hear it being talked about in the mainstream media, but talking about our culture as black people, and especially black Brits, and the various things that we see growing up in our families and our communities and our friendship groups, etc., that impact our identity and mental health, and discussing ways we can move forward, really. So yeah, my name is Nathan Ade. Young podcaster, animator, ambitious creative. I will change the world. In fact, I'm already changing the world, and I'm in a season now where there's so many creatives like me, especially from quote-unquote minority backgrounds, who have big dreams, and I'm in a season now where I'm trying to be grateful for the platform that I have, and it's not so much about the big numbers. And I'm not gonna lie, like the start of 2022 has been great. For example, if you've been following the Mental Roots pod page on Instagram, which you can see the tag to on the screen if you're watching on YouTube, as you may have seen on there, I've started getting radio interviews, which has been awesome, man. Just talking about this whole Mental Roots project, how I'm using animation and podcasting to tell these stories in black mental health, and I've started emailing other BBC radio stations and different platforms to try and spread the word. But all of that to say, anyone who builds a brand and builds any kind of project or movement, especially when you're doing it on your ones to begin with, you know how tiring it can be, man. And I'm going to be real, I've always been honest on this podcast about burnout, and it's still something that I kind of grapple with, and I'm still trying to improve my balance of work and rest and all of that stuff. So yeah, man, I'm just saying as an encouragement to anyone watching to this or listening to this, if you're grinding, if you're trying to make something happen for your family, maybe it's working on a business idea, where maybe it's just the daily grind of going to work or going to uni, going to college, going to school, and yeah, if you're feeling burnt out or feeling like, man, it's just like sometimes you're just in zombie mode, man. You just have to get the work done to in a high enough standard that you can start to finally get the right people's attention to actually help you build bigger and scale. And so I'm in that tricky but privileged position, and I say privileged because at least I've started. I'm over a year into this podcast and into this Mental Roots brand, and already I've started to get just a few people volunteering, but yeah, it's just a bit of a slow beginning in terms of everyone really knowing what they're doing and a regular kind of system being put in place. So I'm still going. I'm tired. It's late right now as I'm recording this. Not too late though. Just nearly 9 p.m, so not too late, but yeah, it's a grind. But yeah, enough of that. For all the hard workers out there, keep going, have a big vision in mind, and yeah, just remember why you started, and that's going to carry you through. So with that motivational speech bit done, I'm going to get straight into what this episode is about. So this is part 3 of my chat with a guy called Kenneth, aka Shocka, and he's a great artist, great advocate for mental health. As a black man, he's done so much to try and shift the culture. And if you haven't heard part 1 and part 2, you know what to do. Go and check out those parts first before checking out this, so that you get the full context behind Shocka's life story growing up in London, navigating mental health. And in the last episode in particular, he talks about, well, we talk about rather, the power of innovating, the power of being a pioneer as a black man, and you know how various trials come our way, especially as black men, but seeing them in those obstacles in the right way can build our character and help us actually be the change and be the positive influence that we didn't have for ourselves. And then we continue in that kind of vein in this part, but we also delve a lot deeper into the different occasions that Shocka got sectioned. So for those who are not aware of what being sectioned is when it comes to mental health, is basically being put in a mental health hospital. And this is the kind of first part of our conversation where Shocka really goes into detail about what it's like to be sectioned, what it's like to be in a mental health home. But he talks about how the 3 different occasions that he was sectioned. First of all, he talks about how it even came to be that he was sectioned 3 times, and then we talk a little bit about what he learned and about himself, again the building character aspect, and a whole lot more that is kind of suggested in the title of this episode. And yeah, but before I get into it, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, share on YouTube and on any other podcast platform that you are listening on or watching on. Just make sure you subscribe so you stay posted, you stay updated with the new content. Of course, follow Mental Roots Pod on Twitter and Instagram as well, because you'll see loads of other things there. Sometimes I do polls on stories to get audience interaction that can then kind of impact and improve the content. So yeah, I know I've spent ages on this intro. I like to babble on a lot, but hopefully you like the sound of my voice. So yeah, without much further ado, let's get into part 3. And just as a disclaimer, and this is something for you to be aware of as well, for part 1 and part 2, you might have heard there's some crackling in my microphone. Excuse that's just some recording difficulties on Zoom. So if you hear some weird crackling on my microphone, that's why. I'll try and make sure that doesn't happen again. And of course, what else happened? Oh yeah, you might have noticed there's a bit of a delay between my speech and Shocka's speech, because again, internet. So there was a bit of a delay in Shocka hearing what I was saying. So if there's some weird gaps in between what we're saying, then that explains that as well for part 1, part 2, and this part as well, and part 4 that will come out next week. So yeah, long intro, I know. Let's get straight into it. So yeah, talk about that for a second. Talk about, you know, you get sectioned the first time, you come out. So you got sectioned 2 more times. Like through getting sectioned those more times, like what kept you afloat? Like what people were around you to keep you from completely going down the drain, or even, you know, committing suicide? You know, like what kept you going, bro?
I thought about this moments like this, and that's why I always my best advice to anyone that's in the situation that I'm in is create an imaginary future for yourself, even if it's not there, even if it's not physically there, but create one. Like, I had to create one. I had to tell myself, do you know what? And do you know what? Another thing that helped me is that I was too much of a pussy to go through the suicide process. Like people that go through that process, yeah, fam, I've got to, bro, it's not a joke. Like, it shows how strong they even are. I contemplated it. I got close, but I couldn't do it. So that bought me extra time to like say, do you know what? Fuck it. If I'm not going to do it while I'm here, what am I going to do? And then I said, do you know what? While I'm here, if I'm not going to do it, let me just try and make my life as best as it can be. Do you know what I mean? And then that intention just opened a brand new door. Like it just opened. As soon as I said that, like, let me try and make my life as best as it can be while I'm here. All these books come in. The Louise Hay book came in. I started seeing all these videos. I'm like, I saw a video from, I always mention his name. What's his name, man? The guy that played Iron Man in Marvel.
Oh, Robert Downey Jr.
Robert Downey Jr. He was a heroin addict. Then he went to prison, and then he came out, and his friend was the director of Marvel, and he said, "Please give me a shot for a role. I'll do anything." And then he trained hard, and he got the role. And do you know what I mean? I saw stories like that, and like I just started creating the future in my head and saying, "Do you know what? If I can turn this around, then I don't even have to speak. I'll just be the living embodiment of hope." Do you know what I mean? I'll just be the guy that people point at and be like, "You know that guy over there? He got section 3 times and he's still..." Do you know, I don't even have to talk. Yeah. When I talk, it just makes it even more epic. But I wouldn't even have to speak. I'll just be the guy that people be like, "Yo, you know him? Like, he got section 3. I mean, that I wouldn't have to speak." And then that gave me excitement. I get excited now thinking about it, just knowing that like I'm in that place that I was when I set that whole intention. So shit like that is what kept me going. I just kept striving towards it, and life just kept getting better and better and better. And it just showed me like, when you have an intention that helps everybody else, life just works for you. If I had an intention just for myself, saying, it'll be sick if I can get better and get through this, I don't think that would have been enough strength for me to like continue, because I knew like how impactful it's going to be for me to be on podcasts. I've done so many. I do podcasts all the time. I don't care how much numbers they've got. I don't care how much numbers they've got. I just know there's going to be, even if they've got their 2 subscribers, I just know one of those subscribers is going to need to hear it. Do you know what I mean? So that was my drive, man. Just creating a future for yourself. It's important. You need something to look forward to. Without something to look forward to, you're finished, bro. You're nothing. You're finished.
Preach it.
You are finished.
Yeah. That's it. Imagination, man. Imagination is powerful. Yeah,
it's everything. Yeah. You need something to look forward to. You're finished. And like, that's what's sad, because like my mum, obviously, you know what's going on with my mum. She's got cancer and stuff at the moment.
Yeah.
And like, the reason why shit like that is scary is because they're giving you something to look forward to, but it's negative.
So it clouds your imagination.
It clouds your imagination, because you're saying, what's the point of me imagining if in the next couple of months or something, I'm going to be dead or something? Do you know what I mean? So you need something positive to look forward to. Sorry, let me add the positive in there, not just look forward to. Yeah. You need something positive to look forward to. I always knew I had my gift. I didn't know if my gift was going to work, because that was another scary thing. Don't forget, I've been in a group. I've been in a, like, to make my breakdowns make sense, you need to understand that I've been in a group my whole life. Marvel wasn't the first group I was in. I was in a group called Chain Gang before. I was in a group called Chain Gang before that. I was in a group called Chain. I've never been solo. I've never stepped out on my own. Whereas, as I mentioned to you, the 2 people that I was in a group with, they've done things on their own. Double S was a star on his own before Marvel, and Vertex was a big director before Marvel. So they've experienced life challenges, and I've always been sheltered. Do you know what I mean? Only child, mom's looking after me, family's looking after me. Okay, cool. Step into the world, I get into a group. I'm shielded now by my group. Then I get into another group, shielded by my group. Then in school, I'm with like a group of friends, shielded by my friends. So of course, when I face adversity, I'm going to fold. So I mean, I've never been tested. Wow. So like, I had to go through that test, and now I'm ready. Like, imagine me getting hit with this news that my mother's got cancer then. How I would have folded. Now I feel like I'm ready, even though it's the most scariest thing that I've ever gone through, just watching her go through all of that and just knowing what could happen. But I feel like I'm ready. Like I'm do you know what I mean? Like I'm ready. Like I've gone through, I can deal with, I'm not saying I can deal with it, but I can deal with it better than how I would have dealt with like adversity like that before. And the pioneer thing, the reason why I'm gonna go back and touch on that is because all I watch is like different pioneers now. That's all I spend my, like, now. I don't know if it can I turn the camera around?
Yeah, that's fine.
I've been watching, do you know who's really inspiring me? I'm going to show you right now. J.K. Rowling. I'm literally watching a J.K. Rowling interview. Old interview, 2003. But she's a pioneer. Like, oh shit, let me turn it back around. She reached unprecedented success in the book market, in the book industry. It's never been done before. And they told her, I've been watching her story. She's so inspiring, bro. Like, you got to get, I don't know if you got into JK Rowling already, but I
Not
would love to
really.
meet her. Like,
Yeah.
she's special. But yeah, man, they told her to like, don't really worry about being successful because like children's books don't really get successful. It only reaches like a certain cap. And do you know what I mean? So she completely took that out of her mind, but she loved it anyway. And same thing like me, she struggled to get a deal. No one would publish her books because they said her books was you know, the Harry Potter books with witchcraft and all this. You know how it's like her books are left, and no one wanted to publish her. But she said she had a voice in her head that said to her, if you can just get published by someone, the book's going to do its own thing by itself. And that's how I felt, and that's how I still feel. I felt like if I can just get a platform where I can be heard, my stuff is going to do what it needs to do by itself. And that's happened. As soon as I found Instagram, Nath, my first freestyle, the Grenfell freestyle, went viral. Shade Room in America posted it. Gigs posted it. Semtex hit me up. They flew in from Sweden to interview me. This is my first freestyle, you know. Then my self-love song. This was in 2017, sorry. 16, 17, I think it was.
Wow.
First freestyle. I joined Instagram 2016.
Okay.
2017, first freestyle, viral.
Wow.
And then 2018, I make the self-love song. Snoop Dogg posts it. I get signed. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, I knew self-love was doing numbers, but I didn't know, know it was that big.
Yeah, Snoop Dogg posted it on his Instagram. I get signed.
Wow.
2019, Conscious Crud comes out. Number 3 in the hip hop charts. Same year, I get called to do a TED talk. Do you know what I mean?
I've seen the TED talk, yeah.
Then I do 2020, I do my headline show in Rich Mix. And then COVID hits. That slows me down a bit. But I'm ready for that now. Do you know what I mean? If I was younger, I probably would be losing my mind. Like, oh my God, I'm just about to blow. COVID is spoke. I was ready for that. 2021, we're back again. I got my album. I did an interview with Seth Golden.
Yeah, I saw that.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
that was mad.
I did the Adidas Paralympics. I don't know if you saw that. The Adidas Paralympics thing.
Yeah. Oh,
do you know what I mean? So, bro,
man.
Back on again. So, yeah, bro. And these are all these things I'm doing are first. That I mean, that I'm probably the first artist from the UK to talk to Seth Golden. I'm probably the first. Adidas told me they've never done a Paralympics advert. That was their first advert like that they've done.
Wow.
So like I'm on the path I'm on. I can tell I'm on that trajectory. I'm on the first to do what I'm doing. So I've just got to walk it and just trust and just have faith and just do you know what I mean? And just go down this path.
Bro, I'm getting goosebumps right now because when you think about some of the greatest people we look back at in history, you know, Albert Einstein, when he was alive, people thought he was mad, you know?
Yeah,
like
100%, yeah.
And not to put too much weight on your shoulders, but like, I feel like, I wonder how many Einsteins we're seeing right now that in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years time, we're going to be like, yo, that guy's a legend, you know? And I think it's one of the, I guess, the beautiful yet tragic things about being a pioneer, being a role model, is that most of your impact will be felt after you're gone. Like whilst you're here, people are going to think you're weird. Even the ones closest to you will be like, I can see your heart's in the right place, but I still don't totally get it. Like, I wish you well, but like, you know, so it's,
yeah,
man. But I feel like your head's in the right place because what stands out to me about you is that you do have a certain level of influence. You know, you've got relationships with, you know, big people in the game, Retry 2 and all sorts of people. But for me, not only are you one of the most approachable influencers that I've met, but you're just one of the most approachable people I've met, full stop. Like, even remove the platform, like just you as a person. That's one thing that stands out to me about you. You're really approachable. Like, when I shoot a message, just being real about what's going on, or saying, hey, you know, could Do you want to do this? Blah, blah, blah. You've always been quick to respond, open-minded, and you celebrate people. I feel we don't have enough of that, right? And
Yeah,
especially for you to be as a black man, to be, obviously you've been through a lot to get to this stage of being
yeah,
selfless, but like,
yeah. I wasn't always like this. I was the complete opposite at one point.
yeah, man. But that's the beautiful thing about life, and obviously I'm a Christian as well. I believe that God turns all things that the enemy meant for evil, he turns it for good, you know? And when I see, like,
Yeah,
basically
definitely.
what you were saying already, what I see is like God has allowed, not to say that God has caused the suffering, because, you know, as human beings, we have to take responsibility for our own suffering, but like
No,
God still,
I definitely caused it, but
mm,
he took me through it.
yeah, he
Some people
uses
don't
it.
get through the suffering they cause for themselves.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. Before we continue, I just want to share with you something very briefly, something that's really been helping me with my concentration and productivity with all the work I've been doing, finishing uni, finishing the first 2 Mental Roots short films, which I can't wait to share with you. All of that stuff, in addition to the podcast, needs some high level concentration and motivation, especially during a pandemic. So if you're a busy guy like me, you've got loads of things going on and you want something that can boost your productivity, I highly recommend some natural caffeine energy shots that I've been using, which you can mix with tea or water or whatever you want. It's got a nice rich raspberry flavor packed with vitamins and really good natural caffeine, which doesn't give you the crash and high calories like a lot of high caffeine drinks that are commercially sold. So if you want to order those shots for yourself and see how they can help you, then check out the link in the written description for this episode on whatever platform you're watching or listening on. And if you want to let me know personally how they help you when you do order them and try them for yourself, then message me at my personal Instagram page, which is at Nath_a day. So if you're watching on YouTube, it is right here on the screen. You can see it for yourself. But if you're just listening on a podcast platform, it is at NATH_ADDAI. Message me there to find out more about that product and any other products that I've been using, because I've been using other products as well as different workout techniques and things to help improve my physical health, which in turn improves my mental health. So thanks for listening. Let's get back into the episode. Enjoy. So talking about the mental health breakdowns, was it still manic depression? Was it still the same reasons that you got sectioned those extra times?
So the 2 times after, they diagnosed me with schizophrenia.
Right.
And at the
You want to break
time,
that down?
I didn't know what schizophrenia.
Like what
So
schizophrenia is
schizophrenia.
and how
so
you
so
manifested it.
so I got diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. So that's when like
Okay.
you're hearing voices. That's when
Right.
like you're hearing voices and like you're paranoid. I think there's mild forms of schizophrenia and there's different because there's a girl that I talked to and she's got schizoaffective disorder, which is different, if you know what I mean. So I'm still learning. That's what I'm saying. I'm still navigating myself through this and learning. But I got diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, which is like hearing voices and that.
Right.
And that didn't happen till the 3rd time I got sectioned, was when I went on holiday with one of my friends. One of my friends signed his record deal and I was at home doing nothing, as I was at that period. And he said to me, yo, let's go Magaluf, bro. I just signed my deal. My advances come through. Let's celebrate. I was like, you know what, bro, let's do it, bro. It's been a while since I've traveled. Let's go. So he took my passport details, booked the ticket, was gone, Magaluf that same night. Mum told me, take a medication with you. And that's another thing. Like, I've learned so much about medication as well. I had such a big stereotype around medication, especially from the area that I'm from. Like, we look at it like, bro, why are you taking medication? They're trying to poison you and they're trying to dumb you down and the government's trying to control you. Bruv, fam, that's why I say everyone's different. Some people medication's not for, some people you just got to, it's all a learning curve. You just got to find out what works for you. This is what this whole thing is about.
That's it.
Finding out what works for you.
Exactly.
No one else, what works for you.
Yeah.
And then so I went to Magaluf, took my medication with me, but didn't plan to take it when I was out there. So I was drinking. I wasn't meant to be taking alcohol either. Drinking, doing all this stuff. And then I got back to the balcony and I remember hearing my friends laughing at me. And I was thinking, that doesn't make sense, because the friends I'm hearing laughing at me are not with me in this country. They're back in the UK. So how does that work? Yeah, and that's when I knew but now I know what that was. Now I would know, oh, you're relapsing. You better take your meds, or you better try and get yourself back in there. But at that time, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know.
Right.
So I remember trying to keep myself together. Couldn't sleep. I don't think I slept that whole night. I think I was awake that whole night, and I was just hearing things. And then when I knew it was serious was when I actually believed that my friends were outside talking about me, outside the balcony talking about me. I believed it at one point. Got outside the balcony when we was leaving to come back to the UK. Got outside the balcony and I didn't see no one. And I was like, oh, fuck, whatever's happening. Like, just take me back there now. I can imagine how scared I was. I was like, whatever's happening, I am fucked. Got onto the plane. Imagine, I had this whole relapse happen. I don't even know how I managed to, this is probably why I'm so calm now, because that period taught me so much. The fact I was managed to stay so calm throughout that whole period now, it's going to take a lot to move me, because I was on the plane still relapsing. I remember people that were sitting in front of me and sitting behind me, it sounded like they was talking about me. You know, like when everyone's talking on the plane and fidgeting and doing what they're doing, it felt like they was all talking. Bro, it's the scariest thing I've ever experienced, bro. And it's a normal occurrence. I've talking to other people that's been diagnosed with schizophrenia. It's a normal thing. I didn't know at the time. Anyway, got back home. This is why my third section was different to the second and the first. I got back home and I messaged my mum and said, Mum, I'm not feeling too good. Something's wrong. I would have never done that before. I would have just kept it to myself. And then whatever happens, if I explode, I explode. So that was a different step to the first two times. That was a different step. And then my mum said, okay, cool, come in now. They took me to the hospital. I got another thing was a different step. They asked me if I wanted to stay with my mum and recover, or if I wanted to get sectioned. And I said yes to the sectioning. So that was different as well.
Yeah. Can you just further break down what sectioning looks like? Because we hear about it, but what does it look like? Like, what rooms are you in? What's the regular day like being sectioned?
Because I'm not in my right state of mind when I get in there, it's always blurry to me how I got there. I always remember, what part I remember is waking up in my room.
Okay.
And then having the nurse come to my door and say, oh, you're right, and everything. And then I'm like, oh, yeah. I'm here. I've been sectioned again. And then like, do you know what? It's really boring in there. I think the reason why I don't really talk about the experience all the time, if you've noticed on all of my interviews or podcasts, I never speak about the actual experience of being sectioned because like, it's not, I know what people want to hear and it's not that. Like people think being sectioned. Like,
one thing about this podcast, we keep it real. We don't sugarcoat nothing. Like,
yeah.
I didn't even say this at the start. Like, my preference would be people don't swear, on the podcast. But if you feel that's what you have to do to articulate yourself,
I got to keep. Yeah,
that's fine. All I have to do is say, "How'd your kids? How'd your wife?" at the beginning. This is But like, say what you have to say, bro, and it's fine because
give them.
Yeah, it's fine because even for me. Like when you start anything, you're worried about the numbers, right? And I'm sure as an artist, that's why you did impact over numbers, because that it matters to you. You think about the numbers, right?
Yeah.
When I started this podcast, I was thinking about the numbers. I was looking at all these podcast programs and all these podcast influencers saying, here's how you can grow your audience, blah, blah, blah. But then I realized, like, again, being a pioneer, when you're doing what you're doing, most people will not appreciate it. and that's fine, because when I
Yeah.
do this podcast, I'm not thinking about a massive crowd. Although, yes, I'm doing what I can to try and reach as many of the right people as possible. But my top priority is the
Hmm.
right person. I just need the right person to hear this,
Yes,
and
exactly.
that's it.
Exactly.
That's it. So, yeah, man.
And you're
So keep it
creating the
real. Keep it
rules.
real.
So you can't, yeah, you're creating the rules. So you can't follow what another podcast is doing
Yeah.
because you're the first of your podcast. So it wouldn't make sense. But
Yeah.
yeah, being a typical day of being section is not, it's boring. You're literally doing nothing. I used to pace up and down the corridors, yeah, just up and down for hours. And that's why I've got this habit. If you ever meet me, when we meet up in person or we chill together, you'll notice that like I've got a habit of like pacing up and down. Like I always think to myself, is my subconscious? I always think to myself, is my subconscious still there? Like, is it still at these hospitals? Like I always think that because I just pace up and down, and that's what I used to always do. And I used to just pace up and down, just thinking. God knows what I'm thinking about, but I'm just thinking and thinking and thinking, just pacing up and down. And then you got patients in their own world. Everyone's just literally in their own world. You've got patients in their own world, and then before you go to sleep, there's like a queue that you got for medication. So everyone goes to the desk thing to get your medication. They've got a TV in there, so there's some people watching TV. They had table tennis. The last time I got section, the reason why it helped me heal, and this is something I need to change before I leave Earth somehow, yeah, in the mental health system. The last time I got section was in a private hospital.
Right.
So it was completely different to the first two.
So the first two were NHS hospitals.
Tennis. NHS hospitals, and they're just dark and grungy, and people can come into your room and like all these weird stuff is happening. Like I'm gonna say all the weird dark stuff that happened, I'm not gonna mention it. I'm gonna save it for my book. I need to save something for my book. But like I've seen, bro, Nate, if you know what I've seen in this life, bro, yeah, I've seen so much shit, bro. I'm telling you, like that I can only put in a book, because if I verbalize it, then they'll really put me in the crazy box. But if I put it in a book, then you can just read it and use your imagination and be, this is a cool story I'm reading. But if I verbalize it, it's like, oh my God, yeah, Shocka's interview. He's saying a patient, like, it's nuts. But yeah, so much stuff. Like, that's the only difference. That's the only difference between prison and probably a mental institution, is that you might see something that you've never seen before, physically
so
and
it
spiritually.
Literally felt like prison to you.
Yeah, but just without being bossed around.
Right.
You know, in prison, you literally have no freedom. Like literally, like they tell you when to get up. They tell you, do you know what I mean? Like they don't tell me when to get up. I can stay in my room for the whole day if I want to. The only thing I can't do is come outside in society. You can't leave. You get like an hour a day to leave. And my mum used to come and take me out for like an hour, then bring me back. That's traumatic too. Seeing your mum leave and that's
the real lockdown.
That's the real lockdown. Like seeing your friends leave. I used to look outside my window, and when my friends are leaving, they'll be having a conversation in the car park just before they leave. And I'm just watching them like, bro, do you know what I mean? Like, bro, it's traumatic, bro. But apart from that, there's nothing really going on. There's nothing. But this is the thing, though. Everyone's experiences is different.
Right.
Because you can talk to someone else that's been sectioned. They might have a mad story about, do you know what I mean? Like, like maybe at night time, you might hear people screaming or like...
just the...
Yeah, bro.
Just the normal scream here and there, you know?
Yeah, bro. You hear people screaming or like you see nurses rush into like a room because like a patient's tried to commit suicide in that room. So you see everyone and you're like, oh, what's going on? And then someone tells you, oh, you know, Danny in room 7, he just tried to like, it's nuts. Like I remember second day I was there, a patient comes up to me, yo, Kenneth, man, I just tried to eat rat poison, man. I'm like, where the fuck am I, bro? I'm like, yo, where am I? He's like, Kenneth, man, I was hearing voices bad this morning, man. I had a bit of, I think he had insect poison or something for the room for insects. He's like, yeah, man, I tried to like, I was like, what the fuck is going on here? And this is day 2. And I don't even know how long I'm staying because like they don't tell you how long you're section 4.
Wow. Oh.
So you're just in there waiting for a date.
I mean, how do they determine?
Now,
How do they determine how long you're sectioned for?
because they're checking your progress. But
Right.
now I've learned that you have the minimum of 28 days. I didn't know that. I was thinking, why do I keep getting released after like 28 days? Or like, it didn't make sense. But now I know, like, okay, cool. Yeah. But imagine me then not knowing that you have the 28 days. So I'm thinking, bro, like,
Would you see when certain people were released?
Yes, of course.
Mm.
You see people leaving with like their bags and stuff, and like,
Mm.
or they'll tell you, you see people leaving with their bags and stuff, and it's like, yeah, he's gone.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you know.
I want to ask a very transparent question, and you don't have to
Go on.
go in certain detail if you don't want to, but do you
Go
feel
on.
like as a black man, did you feel, now I understand your memory of it might have been a bit shaky as well, but do you feel like there was some form of injustice or some form of unfair treatment that could have been racially, or you've just
No. I had the best. I was gonna say I had the best time. You know, I had
what? So what? All 3 of those times, yeah.
all 3. I felt God was
Okay.
with me, bro. All 3.
Okay.
When I tell my experiences to other people I know that's been sectioned, I was like, yeah, you were blessed. Like I got people that hated the whole period. I got people that had like nurses saying like horrible things to them and like, you know, yeah, man. Bro. There's some people that had like people that committed suicide in there because like they wasn't getting the attention they needed. I did a documentary on. I did a documentary called Deep Rooted. Do you see that Deep Rooted documentary I did for Made You Think?
Not yet, bro. I haven't seen it. I need to. There's a lot I need to check out, bro. You're doing a lot, man. It's hard to catch up with.
it's on YouTube, yeah. And he posted it on his Instagram, and some of the comments was just saying like they were saying I was doing a disservice to everyone else because my story was so clean, my time in being sectioned, and they was telling stories of like their friends that's been sectioned and they end up committing suicide in there because it was so bad. And like, so I was lucky, bro. I was just blessed. I'm not gonna lie. This could have went completely different, man. People don't make it out of them places, bro. The same. I made it out better. That's unusual.
Wow.
You know what I mean? People usually come out and like you can just, when you hear stories that why things like that, innit? Like
that's amazing.
And I think I understand why my experience was that privileged, because maybe I couldn't handle what other people went through, if that makes sense. Maybe my experience was like tailor-made for me that way. To get through that place. You know what I mean? Maybe like being in there was that traumatic enough for me. So like having a wild and crazy I probably would have never made it out. So again, everything happens how it's meant to, bro.
Thank God, man. Like even for me, when I
definitely.
I mean, I wouldn't say I've had any drastic things like that, but that's the thing about God. Like you don't know what he saves you from until you see what other people go through. Like when you,
yes, exactly.
Like so, because maybe at the time when you were sectioned, maybe you felt like, oh, this is terrible. But then you hear other stories and you're like, oh wow, God really protected me. So yeah, man. Wow. You see, this conversation just gets more and more powerful, man. First of all, so many layers in that, so many misconceptions that Kenneth addresses. One of them being like even what schizophrenia is. I didn't know what schizophrenia was, and he talks about, and there's a whole lot more research for me to do in it, but just hearing his personal story of hearing voices and how real those voices can feel is amazing. It's very interesting, how our minds, play tricks on us, and the trauma that we store inside of ourselves can contribute to these voices, that we hear even when the sources of those voices aren't even real, if that makes sense. So, and then on top of that, misconceptions like, oh, medication is a taboo thing. No, like Kenneth admits, like, there's a time and place for medication. There's a time and place, even for now looking back again, you know, that his experience being sectioned wasn't even that bad compared to most people. And so just shout out to any of you listening to this or watching this who may know of people. I mean, I think we all know of people who have had some form of mental health disability or mental health illness, but maybe we've all been guilty at some point of looking at them a certain way and thinking, poor them, or just kind of not really thinking about what they've been through. But being sectioned, like, yeah, that's something I'm gonna have to, you know, do more research into. But in terms of the documentary that Shocka was featured in, that he was talking about, there's a link to that documentary in the written description. So go and check out that documentary on YouTube. Powerful stuff, powerful. And yeah, sure, you know, Kenneth was honest about the fact that his experience compared to most people's experience being sectioned was actually very, very privileged. And again, that links back to the first half of this episode where, you know, gratitude is so important, and that's what I love about Kenneth, man. He knows gratitude. He's not bitter, he's not, you know, and many other black men in his position might feel like, man, the system's against me, or whatever, or we've got a long way to go, and focus on the negative aspects of being a black kind of being a black advocate for mental health, and the trials and tribulations that can come with that. But Kenneth is so grateful for where he's been, and of course, when he started doing stuff like the Grenfell freestyle and all these different things that have helped him to gain more exposure, it helps put things in perspective for me. Like, again, literally the title of one of his albums, the impact is more important than the numbers, and the impact isn't always measured by numbers and stats. So be grateful for the small things, even in the experiences that most people might think, oh my god, that's such a terrible thing. You'll be like, nah man, like, I still made it out sane, I made it out better than I was. So let's all have that mentality in life. But anyway, enough of that preaching. Thanks for listening. Again, like this episode on YouTube if you like it, if you like this kind of content, like it, so that YouTube knows you like it, and you're gonna get more of this content being pushed your way. And then comment as well on Spotify. There's a poll, if you're listening to this on Spotify, so respond to the poll please, if you can, just a quick one, just so I know how much this is really connecting with you. And then on platforms like Apple Podcasts, leave a review, man. Leave a review, please. Let's push that algorithm. Let's get this content out there, because this is changing lives. And even as I say that, it takes a lot of faith for me to say that, to be honest, because rarely do I ever have anyone messaging me saying how much this podcast has impacted them, if ever. Like, I think I can count on one hand the amount of times that's happened. So feedback is everything right now in this very fragile stage of the podcast. Feedback is everything. I can't emphasize it enough. So please interact in whatever way. And yeah, more content to come. Shocka is back with our final part of our conversation, and part 4, which is coming out next week. And this part is a bit shorter than the other parts, but yeah, just some juicy details on some stuff I've been working on with Shocka himself. And that's all I'm going to say for now. If you want to have more details on what, God willing, what kind of art I've been helping Shocka with, if you want to know more about that, then stay tuned till next week, and keep sharing this podcast with people, and we're going to keep it moving. Stay safe, stay blessed, be grateful, like this episode was emphasizing. And yeah, check all the links in the written description for this. The documentary that Shocka was in, talking about being sectioned. Of course, the Mental Roots animation, as I talk about in most episodes. Please keep supporting that animation, which I spent over a year working on, which kind of set this whole Mental Roots brand in motion in the first place. Check all of it out in the written description. But yeah, God bless. Take care. Peace.